2. Ayatos shivered as he stepped through the portal. The underworld was not a cold place, but fear made his blood run cold. It was a cliched saying he'd always thought was ridiculous until he experienced the icy chill in his veins. He knew his life was forfeit. He had failed in his duty so badly. He was surprised he hadn't been struck down by a handy bolt of lightning. Not that Hades generally wielded such weapons. Hades' power was over the dead, as well as precious metals and gemstones. The castle of Hades was a monument to the god's power. The walls of jagged bricks were made from every gemstone and precious treasure ever known in any and every world. The dim light of the underworld made the riches more difficult to see, yet Ayatos knew the truth. The jagged walls also held the blood of Hades' enemies, as well as those who failed him. He did his best to tamp down his terror as he waited for Hades to call on him. He deserved to die. He knew it was true. He had to accept his punishment like the warrior he was. "Ayatos?" one of the guards said only a few seconds later, smirking as he opened the door to allow Ayatos into the throne room. He straightened his shoulders and marched through the doors, trying to quell the rising panic inside him. He had stood before the god of the underworld on only one occasion. That was the day he had been assigned to guard Spencer. He had assumed it would be an easy job. He had been wrong. He kept his eyes down as he walked toward the throne. He was aware that the dead who lingered to see the god work watched him as well, waiting for him to join them. They were a frightening collection of creatures from every realm in existence, some he'd never even seen before. Then there was the Cerberus, who sat at the base of the steps to the throne. The three-headed dog usually guarded the entrance to the underworld. Sometimes he was brought in for executions. It must be why he was there. He was Ayatos' firing squad. It was Hades himself who was the most frightening. He had lived for millennia, yet looked like a man in his 40s. His dark hair wasn't grayed like a human's would be, and there wasn't a single line on his regal face. He sat in his throne with a dark-haired beauty next to him. She wore a simple white dress that made her almost glow in the dim light of the land. Ayatos stepped forward and bowed to Hades, expecting the Cerberus to attack him at any moment. Hades contemplated him, resting his elbow on the arm of his throne as he did. "Where have you been?" he asked in a calm voice. Ayatos cleared his throat. "My lord, forgive me. There was an attack and—" "Yes, fool. My watchmen have told me there was an attack." Hades cut in, his voice still calm. 2 weeks ago there was an attack and my son was taken by humans. Humans! He ended on a shout. Ayatos jerked, doing his best not to allow his trembling knees to give out. "My lord, the humans have found a way to nix magic. They had a device which took away Spencer's power, as well as my own. I was unable to come to you because of my lack of magic." He waited to see if Hades would even allow him to finish the report before he was killed. Since he made no move to call the three-headed dog forward, Ayatos went on. "The humans have found a way to imprison many beings with power. I was told of a princess of the Fae being taken by them over 20 years ago." Hades raised a hand to stop him, simply staring him down. "You have failed me," he stated simply. Ayatos lowered his head. "I have, my lord," he agreed, his heart pounding so hard he felt lightheaded. "Is Spencer alive?" the woman asked quickly. her hands clenched in a prayerful pose. He inclined his head in deference to the woman. "He is, but I haven't been able to get to him. They have." The woman rose, rushing down the steps to be directly in front of Ayatos. "Go to his friend Madison. She is intelligent. She will help you find him." "Kathia," Hades said in a commanding tone. She whirled around to face him. "I haven't seen my son in almost 15 years. He was supposed to be safe in the human realm. He was supposed to be safe, but I find he never was," she shouted, clenching her hands in her hair as her shoulders shook with sobs. "He was supposed to be safe," she whispered. Hades rose from his throne and walked down the steps as well. The guards all moved like they planned to surround him. Hades waved them off, though. What he did was to wrap his arms around Kathia and allow her to weep into his shoulder. Ayatos' heart stopped. The god of the underworld had just been shouted at in his throne room, and he held the woman like she was the most precious creature ever to walk the worlds. The god must truly be in love with her. Hades pressed his mouth to the top of Kathia's head and made hushing noises. "I will destroy them all if a single hair on his head was damaged by them. I swear it to you." He crooned like his declaration of war was a proclamation of love. Kathia sniffled and shook her head. "No, Hades. Spencer is a caring boy. He would hate you for the rest of eternity if you destroyed the place he thinks of as home." Hades contemplated her for a moment before he turned his eyes to look at Ayatos. "Go and find Spencer," he commanded, turning his head again to make an odd whistling noise. The three-headed dog stepped over, all three tongues lolling out in delight. "Janus, shift into a form that will allow you to roam safely through the human world and help this fool of a guard." The Cerberus's 3 heads disappeared, leaving a massive Rottweiler in his place. Ayatos' skin crawled at the idea of being in the company of the Cerberus, yet he had no choice. If that was his punishment, he would accept it and be grateful. He bowed to Hades and turned to leave, baffled how he had made it out of there alive. Hades' voice filled the air before he made his escape. "Go, Janus. And if he fails in his duty, he will be your new plaything."